You're listening to Dakota Spotlight. My name is James Wolner. Today, a story as tragic as it is consequential. In 1984, 12-year-old Sharon Bald Eagle vanished in Wyoming while traveling from South Dakota to Idaho. Her disappearance shattered her family and community, but it also led to the capture of a predator who had stalked rodeo fairgrounds, carnivals, and highways for years. Welcome to another Case Snapshot, the disappearance of Sharon Bald Eagle. Just a quick note, I've changed the name of one surviving person in this episode to protect her identity. Part 1. It's September 1984, and Ronald Reagan and George Bush are out on the trail again, pushing hard for re-election. In just 2 months, they'll be clinching a second term in the White House. And on the old television set, there are some shiny new shows starting up. There's some cool, slick new thing called Miami Vice. And Jeopardy! Revival is kicking off with a brand new host.
These three contestants will compete today on Jeopardy! Mr. Alex Trebek.
On the radio waves, Tina Turner is everywhere. She's got her first #1 solo hit. Elsewhere, far from Miami, far from Hollywood, a 12-year-old girl named Sharon Bald Eagle is simply living her life, although her life is not always so simple, at least not lately. Sharon's parents divorced long ago, before she turned 4. Her mom is away now, and her dad has remarried. In recent years, Sharon has often butted heads with her stepmother. Sharon is the eldest of 4 children, a member of the Cheyenne River Sioux tribe rooted in Eagle Butte, South Dakota, part of the Lakota Nation. Young Sharon has black hair, brown eyes, and is 5'3". She is musically inclined, plays the piano, takes part in tribal dances, and also likes to break dance. For most of the previous 3 years, when not on summer break, Sharon's been living with foster families in Rexburg, Idaho. Rexburg is in the eastern part of that state, 80 miles from Jackson, Wyoming. Until recently, she and her younger brother Jay have been going to school there. Jay lived with a different foster family but attended the same school. Sharon and her brother were placed there by their father, Taylor Bald Eagle, a veteran of the Korean War and a Supreme Court justice for the Cheyenne River Sioux tribe. He had signed them up for something called the Indian Placement Program. In Sharon's case, he hoped it might give her a steady female role model. The program itself was run through the LDS Church, the Mormon Church. Here's how it worked. Native American kids who were baptized into the LDS Church were placed in foster homes with church members during the school year. Instead of going to Indian boarding schools or the local reservation schools, they attended mostly white public schools. The stated goal of the program was to, quote, introduce Native Americans to mainstream values and social roles without demanding the abandonment of the old for the new. The program eventually shut down in 1996. So Sharon's dad had enrolled both her and her brother Jay in the Indian Placement Program, and for the most part, Sharon had done well. She liked school, she liked living with her most recent foster family, the Dexters, and even though her brother stayed with a different foster family, he lived close by. Sharon saw her brother very often. Life felt steady and good, and Sharon fully expected that she would be heading back to Idaho for the new school year in the fall of 1984. But just before it was time to return to Idaho came the surprising, unexpected news. Sharon wasn't going back because she wasn't welcome back, it seems. For reasons never made clear, Sharon was dropped from the Indian placement program. For her, that meant no Rexburg, Idaho, no living with the Dexter family, and maybe hardest of all, no brother. Because, you see, Jay was not dropped from the program, and he had returned to Idaho without her. With this unexpected news, Taylor Bald Eagle had scrambled to find another school for his daughter, and he finally settled on a school in Hot Springs, South Dakota, about 150 miles from Eagle Butte. While Eagle Butte sits out in the open, wide prairie, Hot Springs lies on the southern edge of the Black Hills, where the flat plains start to give way to pine-covered hills and rocky draws, those shallow gullies that cut down through the hillsides. Her school in Hot Springs was called the Brainerd Indian School, named after a Christian missionary, David Brainerd, and like so many other Indian boarding schools, its mission was to promote Christianity. This school would eventually close in 1989. So here Sharon is in September of 1984. The new girl once again, trying to make new friends in a new place. Sure, she's done this before, but this time she's far from family. This time, she's all alone. In other words, she's a 12-year-old girl just trying to live her life, but most of the choices aren't even hers. Parents, step-parents, programs, and schools decide her path, and Sharon gets swept along. Still, she seems to be adjusting pretty well. Every now and then she flips open her school binder, smooths a sheet of lined paper, and begins a letter to her father. I picture 12-year-old Sharon sitting at a small desk with a blank sheet of paper in front of her. Maybe she looks out the window for a moment while twirling the pencil back and forth between her small thumb and forefinger, tapping the rubber eraser against her lips while she thinks about what to write to her dad. Maybe for a moment she catches the lingering essence of the horse stables still clinging to her skin and clothing and hair, the musk of horse sweat and dust, the sweet alfalfa and hay, the faint bite of manure. She leans back in her chair and begins to write about it, knowing her dad would smile to hear she's been horseback riding. And she writes about the swimming at Cascade Falls. She writes about the cool water, about cannonballing and splashing and laughing, and how tired but happy it makes her feel. She writes about hiking on dusty trails and the smell of ponderosa pine, sage, and cottonwood. And then, almost as an afterthought, she slips in something harder, a brief line about some of the girls being mean to her. In another letter, she shares something more joyful, how she tried out for the cheerleading squad, 10 girls for 4 spots. To her excitement, she made the team. She can't wait for her dad to read that part. Things were certainly going to work out after all in this strange new place. Now it's Tuesday, September 18th in Hot Springs, South Dakota. There's a basketball game on, and Sharon is there cheerleading. We don't know why, whether she's trying to get back to Idaho to be reunited with her brother, or maybe she misses her former foster family, or maybe she's just escaping mean girls at the new school. Maybe it's a little bit of everything. Whatever the reason, on this evening, right there at the basketball game, Sharon makes a big decision. According to reports made later, on this evening, Sharon tries to recruit another girl at the school to run off with her. That girl declines, but somehow Sharon is introduced to a 15-year-old girl named Nora Little Thunder. Little Thunder lives in Hot Springs too. She attends the public school. I don't know this for certain, but perhaps Hot Springs High is taking on the Brainerd Indian School that night on the basketball court. Little Thunder likes the idea and agrees to take off with Sharon. They'll run off together that very night. And so they do. Off they go into the dark night together. And by the next day, they are 200 miles away, close to Casper, Wyoming. Exactly how they got to that area and who they caught rides with, I don't know. I just know that, for now, you and I will leave them where they are, standing on the shoulder of Interstate 25, thumbs out, cars rushing past. Two girls, only 12 and 15, hoping some good Samaritan will carry them further west, back toward Idaho, back toward Sharon's old life with her brother. Part 2. Now let's fly like a bald eagle up and away, rising high above Sharon, Nora, and the long line of Interstate 25. And like this eagle, let's turn our wings wide and strong and soar southwest towards a different Wyoming town, Rawlins, 90 miles away. Beneath us stretch the sagebrush plains, rolling grasslands, and the bowed silhouettes of oil wells, the pumps laboring day and night, slowly sucking the prairie dry of that coveted black gold. And as we glide, let's let the years peel away too, mile by mile. Year by year, let's go even further back in time, 1983, 1982, 81, until finally, just as we can see the rodeo grounds of Rawlins, Wyoming up ahead, the 80s have vanished. We circle once, then land high atop the stadium lights overlooking the fairgrounds. Today is the 4th of July. We've landed in the summer of 1974.
Hi, this is my new Chevy wagon with flip-down seats. The 74 Caprice Estate. And this, well, she's my mother.
The 74 Caprice Estate Wagon from Chevrolet.
The Rawlins Fairgrounds are alive with rodeo noise, dust, and fireworks for America's birthday. Families crowd the bleachers, kids run with cotton candy, and the town celebrates. 19-year-olds Carleen Brown and Christy Gross are here too. They've come to watch the Little Britches Rodeo. They will soon be leaving the rodeo together. Both of them will vanish, and their car will be found abandoned more than 200 miles to the north. 9 years later, Christy's remains will be found just outside Sinclair, Wyoming, a 15-minute drive from the rodeo grounds. Police will report that the body showed she was killed by blows to the head. Carleen's body has never been found.
Dirty Mary, better keep on moving. No time to tarry.
Exactly 1 month later, also in Rawlins, 14-year-old Deborah Ray Mayer is walking to the movies. She never makes it inside, and she's never been seen since. I don't know what movie she was headed to see, but one of the films playing in Wyoming that week was Dirty Mary, Crazy Larry, a car chase story about two small-time crooks and a free-spirited woman who thinks they can outrun the law forever. It's all speed and dust and the promise of freedom, but the ending is sudden, violent, and makes clear there's no real escape.
Everything under control?
Yeah, merchandise on time.
It's been delivered and it's just waiting.
George, he says he'll kill us if you don't give him the money.
Deborah never got the chance to see that film or any film that night. She vanished before she could even reach the doors of the theater, and she was never seen again. And before the summer is over, just 19 days later, on August 23rd, 10-year-old Jaylene Dawn Banker will also disappear right from this very same fairgrounds, just like Carlene Brown and Christy Gross 50 days earlier. Her partially dressed body will be discovered in a field 8 months later. She, too, had been killed by a blow to the head. And while we are time traveling, let's jump ahead again 7 years to September 1981, and let's fly to the Oklahoma State Fairgrounds in Oklahoma City. Two 13-year-old girls are here enjoying the fair. A man working at the fair has offered them jobs unloading stuffed animals for the carnival. They are seen walking away with him, and then nothing. Neither Cinda or Charlotte will ever be seen again. When we return in a moment, we're going back to 1984, Evansville, Wyoming, the place we last left Sharon and Nora thumbing a ride west towards Idaho. Part 3. Evansville, Wyoming isn't a suburb of Casper, although you might think it is. It's its own incorporated town, just east of Casper, right on the edge. In 1984, there were about 1,500 people in Evansville. Casper, on the other hand, over 40,000. And because Evansville is its own town, it needs its own stuff, right? School, city commissioners, garbage pickup, and of course, its own police department. And as you might imagine, in 1984, in the little community of Evansville, the city police department was small, just a fraction of the force over in Casper. So when Evansville Police Chief Don McCaddy got the call on September 19th, he knew his little squad had their work cut out for them. He'd put Sergeant Bob Zippe on the case for sure. Well, who was he kidding? Everyone would be working on this one. They'd gotten a call from a resident in town. A 15-year-old girl had showed up on their doorstep, begging loudly, asking for help. "Call the police," she said. She was upset and distraught. Her name was Nora Little Thunder. She said she'd been hitchhiking with a friend, and they'd left Hot Springs, South Dakota the day before and made their way to the Casper area. They were looking for a ride when a man in a step-side 4x4 pickup pulled over. He said he'd let them come to his house in Evansville to clean up and to eat. Once there, he offered them $100 to have sex with them. When the girls told him they weren't that kind of girls, the man pulled a gun on them. Then he tied them up with tape and coat hangers. Nora Little Thunder said the man raped her. Later, when he left her alone, she managed to untie herself, sneak out of the house, and run to a neighboring home. But before Chief McCaddy's boys could even get there, Nora Little Thunder heard the man's pickup start up and drive away. When the cops did arrive, they moved quickly, but sure enough, the man was gone. Gone too was Nora Little Thunder's traveling companion, 12-year-old Sharon Bald Eagle. So who lives in this house, Evansville PD naturally asked themselves. Well, it belonged to a man named Royal Russell Long, 49 years old. 10 years earlier, in 1974, Long lived 90 miles to the southwest in Rawlins, where he worked at fairgrounds and carnivals and rodeos. He also worked as a truck driver crisscrossing the Midwest. Chief McCaddy put the word out. Long was driving a 1980 Chevy 4x4 stepside pickup. It's got a little white camper on top with brown and gold wood grain trim, Wyoming license plate 1-908A6. And also McCaddy didn't hesitate to ask for help from Natrona County Sheriff's Department and the FBI. In Eagle Butte, South Dakota, Sharon's father, Taylor Bald Eagle, picked up the phone. Then he packed a bag. He gassed up a car. He pointed it towards Wyoming. He spoke with Chief McCaddy. He spoke with Sergeant Zippe. He spoke with Nora Little Thunder. She told him Sharon had not been raped, not that she'd seen. He held out hope. He spoke to radio stations. He met with a Casper TV news reporter. He looked into the camera and spoke directly to Royal Russell Long. He said, "I want to know where my daughter is. She's my life, my reason for living. From father to father, from man to man, I want to know. I hope you think about this and call me or contact me soon." Royal Russell Long was located and arrested days later in Albuquerque, New Mexico by the FBI. He was apprehended while leaving a telephone booth outside a convenience store. He tried to run but was tackled by agents and did not resist. He was carrying a 9mm pistol. Long claimed he didn't know where Sharon was because he had connected her with a ride to Dallas, where Sharon did have an uncle. Of course, Sharon never arrived there. Searches for Sharon continued around Casper and Evansville for months, but there was still no signs of her. On January 23, 1985, Long pled guilty to 2 kidnapping charges and 1 assault charge. He was sentenced to 2 life terms without the possibility of parole. Soon after, Long was named as a suspect in other disappearances, including the 1981 Oklahoma State Fair abductions of Cinda Pallett and Charlotte Kinsey. Witnesses had seen Long talking to several girls there, offering them a job for $5 an hour. Long himself admitted to being at the fair that day. But in the end, the charges there were dropped for lack of evidence, and Oklahoma prosecutors were enraged and publicly accused Long of being a serial killer who may have been responsible for as many as 20 to 30 girls. Long denied it all, and he stayed silent about Sharon while he was in prison. Sharon's father, Taylor Bald Eagle, never gave up hope. For months he traveled across the country, as far south as Arizona. There were reported sightings of Sharon in Wisconsin and Colorado, but none were credible. Taylor even visited Long in prison, hoping against hope that he might get answers. But when Long came to the window and saw him standing there, he simply turned and walked away. Still, Taylor Bald Eagle held on to hope. He spoke of Sharon in interviews, saying she was in his prayers at every meal. He carried a faded picture of her taped inside his car, so she was always with him. And as late as the year 2020, even in his late 70s and battling illness, he still believed she might be alive. Royal Russell Long died in prison, and with him died any chances of learning the full truth of what happened to Sharon Bald Eagle, and quite possibly also to Carlene Brown, Christy Gross, Deborah Mayer, Jaylene Banker, Cinda Pallett, Charlotte Kinsey, and perhaps other young women whose names we'll never know. And yet, perhaps one small silver lining remains. As tragic as Sharon's disappearance was, it was her case that finally ended Long's ability to prey on others. In that way, Sharon, even in her absence, and Nora Little Thunder, helped stop Long from ever hurting anyone else again. Taylor Bald Eagle died in March 2025 at the age of 89. His obituary states that his daughter Sharon Bald Eagle preceded him in death. In explaining his faith, Taylor shared that in the Dakota language there is no word for goodbye. Instead, they say daksha ake, see you later. As he put it, later, we'll always meet later again, no matter what. Thank you for listening to another Case Snapshot. To learn more about this show, check out dakotaspotlight.com. I'm James Wolner, and I will see you again next time.